Hello and welcome everyone to today's webinar with BayWa and Enphase introducing the IQ9N Commercial Inverter. So I'm super excited that you're joining us today because their commercial solutions offer some significant benefits, and I'm excited to hear all about it, whether it's easy installation or low operating costs or high energy production. Super excited to have Chad Bodmer here. He's the commercial and industrial trainer at Enphase Energy. Hi, Chad.
Hey, how are you doing this
Hello.
afternoon?
It's so good to have you. And we also have Jeremy Sullivan here with us in the background. He may be joining us and jumping in and supporting us here with our webinar today. He is the Global Director of Training. I'm very pleased to have you here as well, Jeremy. While everyone is like logging on right now, I'm going to go ahead and do a little bit of housekeeping. So get yourself familiar with the Zoom platform. Your most important button is the Q&A button because that's the one I'll be monitoring throughout the webinar. So you can ask all your questions, your comments. Please just type it in and we'll address those as we go along with the webinar. You do see the chat that's not regularly monitored, but you will find some important links in the beginning of the webinar if you want to look up and get in touch with BayWa. That would be a good place for you to check out. So please engage. This webinar is here for you, and I'm really excited. Before we start, let's talk a little bit about BayWa, in case you're not familiar with us. So BayWa, as BayWa, our mission is really your success, and we do that in a couple of different ways. So forecasting is one of the really important cornerstones that will impact your success. You can plan effectively with accurate forecasting, ensuring that you can service your customers efficiently, right? So your dedicated BayWa account manager is always available for you and can provide you guidance. Web store, let's pick that one. It's really easy to use. You can simplify your purchasing process with accessing the user-friendly web store for up-to-date pricing, immediate ordering, 24/7, and all of the things that you might be wanting to look up from your previous orders, invoicing, etc. So very awesome tool, making it super easy to interact with us. Commercial services, I want to highlight that one in particular today. So you can benefit by working with us from our expert planning and service desk. So precise product inventory forecasting for your commercial products, but we also assist you with commercial design planning and more. So please bear that in mind as we go along with that presentation, so we can all work together for your success. Consistent pricing, that's an important one. You can enjoy consistent pricing across all the strategically located US warehouses, eliminating any unexpected fees. Logistics is another point. You can easily access the products that you need wherever you are in the country, thanks to our strategically located warehouses with more locations coming online soon. Job site delivery, you can receive your products directly at your job site or construction site. It's really convenient, and you bypass the need of a middle warehouse. So if you are a US-based installer, you're not yet working with us, please explore the link in the chat, reach out to us, and discover how your business can benefit from working with us. All right, wonderful. Thank you so much. And without further ado, Chad, I'm going to hand it over to you. Thank you again so much for being here today.
Thank you, Daniela. I'm sharing my screen right now. Once that is there, I want you, if you could let me know if you can see that. Oh,
You're good.
perfect, thank you. And like Daniela mentioned, if you do have questions throughout this webinar, please just type them into that chat whenever they pop into your head, and we will make sure that we get that answered. And the sole focus on today's webinar is one, introducing our new commercial product, but really kind of making an important statement of why our brand new IQ9N 3P 277 480 volt microinverter is the new standard in commercial solar. So like Danielle mentioned, my name is Chad Bodmer. I am the commercial trainer here at Enphase Energy. I apologize for not having my camera on, but I'm a little under the weather and my nose is a little runny. Spare you the details, but you didn't come here to watch me. You came here to listen and learn about some of the topics we're going to be covering over the next hour. So first thing, we're going to be talking about why Enphase, the reliability, where the products are made, what's going to be happening with the ITC, FIAC, some of that confusing stuff. And it is very confusing. And I'm not going to say I know all the answers or even really fully understand it, but we'll give you some insights to where we currently stand. Then we'll jump into the fun details of the product specs, inverters, gateways, and accessories. And then we will end it on why we offer the best solutions and how we can really help you improve your commercial business or start a commercial business. So here we are at our first poll question. I forgot to mention there will be a few poll questions. That's just to kind of get your engagement throughout the call and just kind of interact with you and see where you kind of are in relation to experience in the commercial world.
Yeah, that's
So
right. The question is, what's the average size of your commercial installation? Less than 50 kilowatts, 50 to 100, 100 to 250, 250 to 500, or greater than 500 kilowatts. So I see some answers coming in. Please just show us a show of hands. Where are you at? What's the average size? Let's wait a little more. Yep, we are seeing a little bit of a dominance of the 50 to 100 kilowatts so far. Let's get some more questions in, some more answers. All right. Yeah, so let's put the results back to you, Chad. Is that what you expected? What are your comments here?
yeah, I think that's it. The majority of individuals were right in the 50 to 100K. And, commercial projects are really all over the spectrum. You might only deal with, we'll say, your typical dentist offices or something like that. That's going to be 50K or less, something quick, simple, easy, like putting solar on a CVS pharmacy or something like that. But then we start talking about getting into the bigger projects, the 250 to 500. Those are your warehouse facilities, maybe an Amazon facility, a big box store, things like that. And you know there's a lot of different complexities going from the small CVS to that big box store, those larger commercial buildings. But Enphase has a solution for all of that. No matter the size of the system, everything gets installed the exact same way, and anybody can be successful regardless of the size of the system they're actually installing.
That's wonderful. All right.
So these
Thank
are
you.
really the four pillars of what the new standard for commercial solar is. Made in USA, highest energy production, lowest overall operating costs, and easiest installation. And throughout this presentation, we're going to break down each of those categories and the subcategories. But there's a couple important things to highlight on this. One, huge is made in the USA. We are FIAC compliant. We qualified for domestic content up to 24.8%, and we meet all BAA and BABA standards, which are required on most federally funded projects. So that is a very, very important one, and we'll talk more about that. And then highest energy production. So we can, without a doubt, say we have unmatched reliability and can provide a higher system uptime for the life of that system. So we can have more days producing power with our product, and we can maximize the production of every single module while providing the lowest operating cost because of our warranty, our total transparency with monitoring, and how easy it is to do remote fixes from a software perspective. And then lastly, for all the installers out there that may have installed Enphase residential in the past, it is the easiest installation system because the installation process is very similar to our residential products. So if you've installed Enphase residential, you can easily install Enphase commercial without any specialized labor force.
Yeah, can we maybe jump in here real quick with a question? If you go back to that slide, so why is this made in America so relevant here? And like, how does it relate to commercial? And does it have to be BAA and BABA compliant?
That is a great question. And that's all we're going to talk about on this slide. And this, we're going to kind of lay the groundwork for why it is so important that our products are made in America. And on the next slide, we're actually going to put numbers to the impacts of made in the USA, fiat, domestic content, all of that. So you can really see and grasp and understand how that impacts the asset owner in the very end. So both of our commercial microinverters qualify for domestic content, the IQ9N 277 and the IQ8P 208 volt. Like I mentioned, both qualify for domestic content. They're both made in the United States in our Arlington, Texas facility. And if anybody on the call happens to find themselves in Arlington or wants to schedule a visit to that manufacturing facility, we are more than happy to schedule tours and do the whole factory tour because it is very cool to showcase and highlight one that it's made in America, and you can see the physical process of a microinverter being built and then how it is tested. Very, very cool if you're, nerdy and into like how it's made, that TV, the TV show that's I believe it's on the History Channel, but it's a very cool process. And so moving on from that, we have that foreign entity of concern. This is a big one because when products do not are not compliant with fiat, that means they won't be able to qualify for ITC or domestic content. So the foreign entity of concern is any country that the government owned or controlled by or subject to the jurisdiction of a direction of a government from a foreign country that is a covered nation. So there's certain countries like China, Russia, Iran, some other countries in that where if certain products, pieces come from those countries, or they have direct ownership or ties to a certain manufacturing company, they will not be fiat compliant. And all of our microinverters, our commercial microinverters, are fiat compliant. And this is very important because when you're fiat compliant, like I mentioned, you can then qualify for the ITC. The ITC is not going away this year in the commercial space. That's hanging around for the next couple of years. So that is a huge, huge benefit. And this is why you're going to start seeing a lot of people start doing more commercial projects, or the strictly residential installers start picking up some small commercial and getting their foot into the door. So that is huge and it impacts a lot of different things. And like I mentioned, we're going to put some numbers to this so you can kind of see what that all looks like from a cost perspective, because everybody wants to talk about cost and Enphase is a higher cost per watt. And I'm not going to sugarcoat it. We are a premium brand, but we offer a lot more. But I'm going to show you how we can be a lower cost solution for that end asset owner because of these tax credits, because we are made in the USA. So if we start on that far left-hand side, we can see a non-fiat compliant string inverter. So this is take whatever string inverter you want. It doesn't comply with fiat, so that means it doesn't qualify for the ITC or domestic content. And the cost per watt, those are arbitrary numbers. We're just using a general number right there, but even with that large delta of 30 cents per watt, you can see at the end we are a lower cost system. So if we're still starting at that non-FIAC, you don't get the ITC, you don't get the domestic content bonus credit, you're at almost $397,000 for that system project. Now, moving one step over, if you are FIAC compliant, that means you can qualify for the ITC. So you're going to get that 30% back. But if you do not have products that are made in America and qualify for that domestic content, then you don't get that additional 10% bonus adder. So you still get potentially that 30%, which is nice. Then if we go all the way over to the right, where we are, one, you can see we're a higher cost per watt, but we can qualify for that 30% ITC and the 10% bonus credit, which at the end of the day allows that asset owner to have an Enphase commercial system for a lower cost than a simple string inverter. In that you get 25-year warranty, a bunch of O&M savings, and we'll talk about where those O&M savings come from, industry leading reliability, module level monitoring, and everything else that Enphase has to offer when it comes to the products, the reliability, the customer support. Everything is there. Now, again, that lowest cost is for the asset owner. The asset owner has to file their taxes and make sure they understand and talk to their tax and legal advisors to make sure they understand all the rules and regulations and legalese that go into those tax credits. But if they follow all of that, they can get an Enphase system at the end of the day for a lower net cost. And I think that's very impactful to just kind of show those actual numbers and why that US made manufacturing is so huge for not only Enphase, but the commercial product space. So there's a bunch of reasons to trust Enphase, but this is, 100, 1,999 reasons. Picture this a commercial rooftop, and each one of those pluses is a solar panel, meaning each one of those pluses is a microinverter. So our microinverter defect rate is 0.05%. So we're saying that out of the 2,000 modules on that roof, you're going to lose production from one module. That is huge and it's unheard of. Most string inverters are typically around 3 to 5%. I've seen even some of them 10% defect rate. So that means when those inverters fail, you're going to have to, one, replace it, but you're going to lose all production from every module that goes to that inverter for the duration that it's down. So if a microinverter fails, one, it's rare. Two, you're only going to lose production from that one module. And we can verify this because we're able to do tons of batch testing on our microinverters because they are so small. We can put thousands into a room in a testing environment and run them through a gambit of tests. Unlike, unlike an inverter, they're much bigger, bulkier. You can only test a few at a time.
Let's launch another poll question here. So, who benefits the most from having a low operating cost system? Is it the installer or the asset owner? I think you mentioned it, Chad. So let's see.
Yep, I hope everybody was paying attention to that.
It looks like it. Right, do we get some more answers? Very simple. It's going to be anonymous. All right. I think it is very clear. So let's close the poll here. It's the asset owner.
Yep,
Do you
unless the
want to get
installer
into?
happens to be the asset owner, and in which case then it would be the installer.
That's right. Nothing to add. It's very clear. All
So how
right.
can we provide that lowest cost operating system? And we can stack it up side by side against a string inverter and see. We have a longer warranty, 25-year. Our failure rate is that of 0.05% compared to potentially up to 10%. This is a huge one for O&M contracts and O&M servicing. We have no moving parts or fans that require annual servicing. Most large string inverters require cleaning of cooling fins or fans that need to be serviced on an annual basis. You can easily troubleshoot from anywhere in the world. And if one does happen to fail, we can let you know exactly where it is on the roof. We can get you the microinverter, and you can send one person out to go replace that one microinverter in probably 30 minutes or less. Versus if you have a string inverter, a large string inverter, it might require multiple people to uninstall and reinstall a new one just because of the physical size and weight. So that adds a lot to that replacement cost, to that O&M. But I think the biggest one is we don't require any annual servicing. Apologize if there's some long pauses throughout there. I have a couple of coughs coming through, but we're making our way through it. So with the installation, it doesn't get any easier. Like I mentioned, it is very similar to our residential system. So you can utilize the same crews. We have different tools that we'll talk about later, but they'll help you design your project, create custom bill of materials. And the other cool thing is you can oversize your system and utilize power export limiting or zero export if you need. We have dedicated white glove service, and we'll talk more about that later. But here's the big one. There's no high voltage DC. So most issues on a commercial site stem from high voltage DC. Nearly 75% of all truck rolls to a commercial site for any type of issue are related to high voltage DC. So with that being said, we don't have any high voltage DC. We are a safer product with a safer technology, and everything is built into that microinverter with integrated rapid shutdown. Danielle, I just want to check in and see if any questions has popped up so far.
No, so far so good. This is great.
Great. And then again, if anybody does have any of those questions, please type it into the chat. So now we're going to move on to the more fun stuff, the product overview, the product details, the specs. So these are the two brand new products to the Enphase commercial world. And both of these products are available for pre-order right now. You can go on and order either of these products. The first one is the IQ9N 3P277 microinverter, and that has to be paired with the new IQ Gateway Commercial Pro. That's what communicates and talks to those microinverters. The microinverter has a 25-year warranty, and that gateway has a 15-year warranty. And this is what that microinverter looks like. So the IQ9N 3P 277, 480 volt, does operate on 480 volts, has a peak power output of 427 volt amps, and is commonly paired with modules from 340 to 600. But be sure to always utilize the module compatibility calculator on the website to verify your module will accurately pair with that microinverter. Our system is 1 micro per 1 module. It is 3-phase, 480 volt. It has loss of phase built in, as well as rapid shutdown. It is auto phase balancing, and you can put up to 30 of these micros on a 20 amp branch circuit. And just like our residential side, you have the Q cable, we have the QD cable, which is a dedicated AC collection output cable for the microinverters. And we'll talk more about what that looks like. But that entire microinverter, again, made in the USA, it comes with that 25-year warranty. The technology inside this microinverter is gallium nitride, which allows the switching inside of it to be more efficient and allows the microinverter to operate cooler and be in a smaller form factor. So it weighs less and it's very similar in size to what our residential microinverters are. And again, this is the IQ9N 3P 277 480 volt microinverter that is available for pre-orders today. And we will be fulfilling those pre-orders near the end of this month, probably the next couple of weeks. This IQ9 8P3P, this is a 208 volt microinverter. This is available today. You can walk in anywhere and pick this up. Few differences, obviously, from the 480 volt one. This is a 208 volt microinverter. The peak power output is 480 volt amps and is typically paired with 380 to 640 watt modules. Has the same cool stuff as the other microinverter. Built-in loss of phase, rapid shutdown compliant, auto phase balancing. Big difference though, you can only put 12 of these per 20 amp branch circuit. And that is due to the voltage and amperage differences between those two microinverters. But again, still same cool stuff, made in USA and a 25-year warranty. This is the all-new IQ Gateway Commercial Pro that has to be paired with the IQ9N. So this operates on either 208 or 480 volt systems. This is what allows us to have the web-based monitoring control and be able to talk to all the microinverters. Each gateway comes with 3 400 amp revenue grade production CTs. It allows for bidirectional communication, which supports power export limiting and zero export. So if you are working at a utility that will only allow you to export a certain amount of kW, we can set that regardless of how large the site is, how much the production is. So you can build the system to fit the building's needs and limit that export. Or if your utility doesn't allow any export, we can set that to zero. Like in California, there's certain utilities that have to do with prevailing wage payments for labor when you export out into the grid. So we can greatly reduce those labor efforts with allowing and setting this up as zero export. Just like all of our other gateways, you set it up and commission it using the Enphase installer app. It connects with Wi-Fi or Ethernet is the standard, and you can add cellular as an option. It is backwards compatible with the IQ8P, so this works with the IQ8P and the IQ9N. That's why it operates on both the 208 and 480 volt systems. And each gateway can talk to up to 300 microinverters. Now, that doesn't mean you're only limited to 300 on a site. It just means if you have more than 300, you're going to need another gateway to be able to communicate to those other microinverters. So there's no limitation on size of your site. It's just when we're talking about power line communications and those details, we want to make sure we have clear connectivity for all those microinverters. And then, like I mentioned, this does come with a 15-year warranty, which is huge. So we have a communication device that's a 15-year warranty and a microinverter that's a 25-year warranty. That's huge for system asset owners. Kind of lastly, on the products, we have an Enphase IQ EV Charger 2. This is also kind of new to the space and is available today, but you can save money with high efficiency green charging, utility rates, and tax tariffs. This is a great new product which will help you maximize the surplus solar for EV charging. If you're interested in EV charging, and you might be asking, well, what about bidirectional EV charging? And you know, we're not going to cover that today. That's for different things, but we do also have commercial EV chargers available to kind of pair with the overall Enphase commercial system. So that's just a few cool things about our new EV charger that we have out on the market today. And I think we are ready for our another poll question.
That's right. Let's do another poll question. So, just like to see the other side of things. How familiar are you with the Enphase residential product? Very familiar. I never installed it, or I only installed it a few times. Take your pick. Looks like we have a mixed crowd here, most of which are very familiar. But there are also some folks here that have never installed it. So while we run this poll a little longer, I'm curious, Chad, what you're going to say about the results momentarily. All right, the movement stopped, so I'm going to end the poll, share the results. Anything you'd like to add here, Chad?
Yeah, the individuals that said you're very familiar with, we can turn you loose today and you'll have no issues installing the commercial product with very little to no training. Um, the individuals that have never installed any type of Enphase product before, residential or commercial, not to worry, it's very easy. Yesterday I was out on a site with our brand new IQ9Ns, and the two individuals I was working with had never installed any type of Enphase before. And one of the individuals, that was his third project ever in solar. So very, very green, very new. And I can tell you that they installed 30 microinverters, all the cabling, in probably about 40 minutes. So it's very quick, very simple. Anybody can do it.
So that's great. So in a nutshell, really, it is super easy to install, and you don't really need any prior education on it. Speaking of education, certifications, is there anything you'd like to add on that? Is there something needed?
So there's no required certifications that we currently have or mandate that you must take or complete before installing the product, but we do urge everybody to go through the installation training on Enphase University.
Wonderful. Yeah, if you have questions, just reach out to us. We can certainly provide you more information on how to access that training. All
Yep,
right.
absolutely. And the reason we ask that poll question is because if you've installed the Enphase residential, you're going to look at this and think, wow, this is all very familiar. I'm having deja vu because it is very familiar. Your main components, your micros, your QD cable, your gateway, your combiners, which in the commercial space, those are not Enphase products. We allow you to grab any combiner off the shelf that fits your project, whatever the size you need, because we do realize that commercial projects vary wildly in size, as we saw from that very first poll. So it allows you to design the system and decide what combiner panel size you need. Then we had our field wirables, our accessories. We have field wirables, male, female. We have raw QD cable for jumpers and home runs. We have QD terminators, which terminate each end of that QD cable. And like I mentioned, You might be, if you've already installed Enphase residential before, you're looking at this stuff and you're thinking, yep, it's pretty much exactly the same. And that's because it is, it's just a couple extra wires. But the installation process is fairly identical. And then lastly, we have our optional components that can get added depending on the design and or site requirements. We're going to take a deeper dive into the QD cable, the AC output collection cable that plugs into each microinverter, because this is a lot of where that magic happens. So this is a simple three-phase cabling system, plugs and play. You just plug it directly into the microinverter. Inside are four wires. You have line one, line two, line three, and neutral. Each of those conductors are number 12. And these circuits, either if you're using an IQ8P or IQ9N, will land on a 20 amp 3-pole breaker of your voltage choice. So if you're using the IQ9N, you're going to use 480 volts, or the 3P or the IQ8P 3P 208 volt. And again, you can only put 12 micros on an IQ8P 3P circuit per 20 amp breaker, and you can do up to 30 IQ9N 3P micros on a 20 amp circuit. We have three different lengths of QD cable, and that's dependent on your installation orientation of your modules. So portrait, landscape, and landscape ballast, or I like to call large landscape. And what that is the distance between each microinverter connection because of where they'll be installed underneath your module. So where you see the feet, the 5.6, the 7.9, the 9.5, that's the distance from each microinverter connection on that QD cable. So you have enough space to install a microinverter near to the center of the underneath of the module side, and that cable will easily reach to the next microinverter in that series, and so on and so forth. So depending on your site layout, you do have different types and lengths of QD cable. So here's kind of a close-up look of what that QD cable looks like. And if this might look confusing, we're going to break it down. So I'll pull out my laser here. These guys right here are what plug into the microinverter. All these on the bottom, all these on the top. These center tap adapters. These are pre-installed on the cable, and those are places where you can choose to pull your home run from. They're already pre-installed. It makes it simple and easy. A spot where you can just simply plug in to pull your home run power from, because voltage rise is a design consideration. And when you have extremely large circuits, if you decide to pull power from an end of a circuit, there's a potential for issues that stem from voltage rise concerns. So what we did is we installed these center tap adapters on the cable. They're installed after every 6 microinverter connections. So you have 1, 2, 3, 5, 6, and then we have a center tap adapter, 6 more center tap, 6 more center tap. And that allows you to have plenty of choices to be able to pick a spot inside of that cable, inside of your circuit, to pull your home run from. And these are pre-installed. You don't have to do anything. All you got to do is pull out the sealing cap that's on that pre-installed connection and install a male field wire. We'll plug it in, and you can run your home run power over to your junction box or combiner panel. I'm going to take a little bit closer look of that holistically and see what that looks like when we build a full circuit of 30 IQ9s. So there's 30 IQ9Ns. For this example, it's hard to fit 30 all in a row. So I have 15 in one row, 15 on another row. We're going to grab our QD cable. plug it into each microinverter on each row. We're going to install our terminators at each end to safely seal and cap off the QD cable. We're going to use male and female field wireable connectors along with raw QD cable to make a jumper. So now we've completed a full circuit of 30 microinverters in that circuit. And as you can see, there's 4 center taps in this fully loaded circuit. That gives you the flexibility and option to choose the one that works best for you. So in this example, there are 2 options that you can choose because there are some limitations on the number of microinverters that you can have on either side of that center tap connection. So we want to have no more than 18 microinverters on either side of any center tap we choose. So like I mentioned, in this particular layout, there are 2 different choices. This first one is on the top because we'll have 12 microinverters on the left side of that center tap and 18 on the right, which completes that fully loaded circuit. So you don't have to have it exactly in the center. You don't have to pull your home run from exactly in the center. It's as close to center as possible without having more than 18 microinverters on one side of that connection. That other example is the one directly below that. Again, it gives you 12 on the left and 18 on the right. So I do want to pause right there before we jump into an example single line diagram to see if any questions popped up, because I know that can be a confusing topic.
Yeah, that's a good point, Chad. No questions right now. I'm sure there are some questions coming up, and thank you for sharing this detail here. So another call to action for you guys. Please put in your questions or comments. Yeah, we want to hear from you.
We absolutely want to hear from you. And if you are confused by this, there's no need to be confused. It's a lot easier than it seems. Just imagine those center taps are outlets in your house, and you're just trying to utilize the closest outlet to you to pull your power from. It's essentially that simple. So let's take a look at an example single line diagram. This is an example one that we have on our website for anybody to kind of utilize, look at, to be able to help build their own. But in this example, we'll start on the left-hand side. We have our micros and our panels. This one is as simple as it gets. We have 30 micros per circuit, and we have 10 circuits. So that gives us 300 micros, which is the maximum number of micros that a gateway can communicate with. We have each circuit being called out as center feeding. Again, it doesn't have to be exactly in the center. You're just pulling your home run from as close to center as possible. And then each one of those circuits are coming over and landing on a 20 amp 3-pole breaker. So you're going to have 10 breakers, one for each circuit. And then at the bottom, you're going to have one breaker for the gateway. So in that combiner panel, you're going to have 11 20 amp breakers total, 10 for the circuits, one for that gateway. Right here, you can see it says raw QD cable for your home runs back to the panel. You can utilize the raw QD cable to go right from that center tap adapter to pull your home run and run that back to your combiner panel, depending on that distance. You have to keep in mind, though, that they're only number 12 size conductors in that QD cable. So if you're installing that combiner panel in a long ways away, you might want to transition over at some point near the array into conduit and upsize that wire so you don't have any overall voltage rise issues. But like I mentioned, that AC PV sub panel, that combiner panel, is not an Enphase product. However, we will have one soon. I'm not going to give a whole lot of details away on that, but be on the lookout. But this allows you to have that flexibility depending on the size of your project. So if you only had two circuits, then on your commercial building, which would be 60 panels and only three breakers needed, one for each circuit, and then one for the gateway. You don't need to buy a massive panel to hold 11 breakers or, different things like that. It allows you to have the flexibility to size the panel accordingly to your project. Next on, we have a line filter. That is an optional thing. So you're only going to need a line filter in one of two areas. One is if you have a project that has significant line noise in the building, and that can stem from large electrical motors or medical equipment can cause disruption and line noise, which can mess with the gateway and how it communicates with the microinverters. So in this example, we have one gateway, we have a line filter. So we're going to assume that there's heavy line noise and that we want to make sure we don't have any communication issues. The other scenario where you would need a line filter is if you have more than one gateway on a site. So if you remember, I mentioned you can have up to 300 microinverters per gateway, but you can have multiple gateways on a site. So if you have two gateways on a site, you need one line filter. If you have three gateways on a site, you need two line filters. So every additional gateway you have, you need to add a line filter. And that's essentially so those domains are kept separate and the gateways do not crosstalk. Moving over to our typical connection, that's really up, site specific, number and size of disconnects, also again, site specific. We have our consumption CTs, which are optional, and those get wired back to our gateway. Those are rated for 600 amps. So if you have a project, a service entrance that's larger than 600 amps and you need consumption monitoring because one, you want to monitor consumption, and two, you want to be able to limit the site's export, not an issue. We have a third-party metering system that will allow for up to 1200 amp CTs, and that easily integrates with our gateway. I'm going to assume there's no questions on the single line diagram.
Nope. We have
All right.
about
They're
10
keeping it
minutes.
simple for me today. Moving on to the last section, that best solutions, all the different stuff that Enphase have to offer to make your life easier, whether it's your first install or your 100th install. Every commercial installation gets dedicated white glove service. Doesn't matter the size of the project, how much you spend, how long you've been a customer. We treat everybody the same, and you get direct commercial sales and product line support. So we have dedicated commercial sales teams that will help you win more specific commercial business. If you have a pitch with a customer, a company, they will help sit on that call and answer any technical questions that might arise about the product or anything like that, because they're really there to help you win that business. We have dedicated CNI project managers. These project managers get assigned to the project right after point of sale. And their sole job is to make sure that project is successful from a product standpoint. They're not project managing the entire project and making sure you have the right labor and crews and schedule. They're doing it from a product perspective. So they're going to help you with design, permitting, building bill of materials, field support. They're commissioning. They're your main point of contact for anything that you need throughout the duration of that project. Then we have field application engineers, service techs, and training team members like myself that are only dedicated to commercial. So we don't have a blend where everybody's jumping back and forth and you can't get training, you can't get somebody to come out to your project because they're tied up on residential. No, we have a commercial team that will take care of you. And not only that, we have a dedicated commercial customer support hotline. So if you're out on site, you don't have to worry about being bounced back and forth between residential techs that might know your situation, might know a little bit about commercial. All you're going to do is call in utilizing the same Enphase hotline number, click four, and it's going to take you right to a highly trained commercial customer support agent. We have free design reviews for all of our commercial customers right now. All you need is an Enlighten account. Once you're in your Enlighten account, you can navigate to services, and underneath that, you'll see design review services. In there, it's going to ask you some simple questions about your project. And we're also going to want to know the two things that are required, which are you have to have an attempt at a single line diagram and you have to have a site plan. But those are the only two things that are required. However, the more information you can give us about that project, site survey photos, anything, the better review that you'll get that we can ensure that it's ready for permitting and install. And again, that is a free service currently for any commercial project. This is probably one of my favorite tools that we have. Again, 100% free. This is on our website. Anybody can use it for residential or commercial. This helps you build a custom bill of materials for your project. You're going to put in information about your project like panel size, number of panels, panel brand, service panel amperage, voltage, and it's going to tell you exactly the SKUs that you need and the quantities of those SKUs. So you can take that over to BayWa and say, can you get me a price on all this stuff? Very simple. You can export it into an Excel file and email it right over to anybody you need. Very awesome tool. It also gives you great insights to the project overview. So I don't know if you can see it necessarily on the screen, but on the second page right here, there's little tabs up here. If you go to that overview button, it's going to give you some good information about your project, as well as give you an example single line diagram based off the limited information that you put in to the system builder. You can monitor your fleet from anywhere. You're going to be utilizing the same software that we have for a residential, the Enlighten software, but inside of there is a fleet monitoring view. So if you've installed or you own a bunch of assets, you've installed on every Bob's Coffee House in your town, and there's 15 of them, you can have all 15 Bob's Coffee Houses pulled up on your screen from anywhere so you can see which one is performing the best, which one might have issues, and you can rank and set this up to your particular view, however you want to see that information. This is also a very cool feature that is included. It's free, there's no extra charge, but this is a kiosk view. This is for any building owner to take advantage of. So this is something that you can set up inside the building's lobby. Maybe it's a dentist's office, maybe it's Bob's Coffee House, maybe it's the airport, and they have a TV in there that kind of shows general information about the building. This is something that can be added to that TV screen to show everybody that's going into that building what's going on up on the roof. How much is that system producing? What's the environmental impact? And it can be branded with the installer's logo. So anybody that walks into Bob's Coffee House or ABC Bank, as on the screen, gets to see that Alpha Solar installed that system up there, and it is producing a lot of power for that particular establishment. Very, very cool feature. Here's just a quick little shout out from an installation company that did our one that installed one of our products not that long ago. So they've been a huge Enphase supporter, Enphase installer, as you can see back from 2009. But this was their first time they used the Enphase commercial product, and they were ecstatic with how simple it was and how easy it was to install. They really liked how quickly the system was commissioned, how flawlessly everything kind of just came together, and they were able to utilize those same exact residential crews to install this system without any specialized labor or high voltage DC electricians. We are near the end. Well, not really near. We are at the end. We're going to talk about some resources. We got about 5 minutes left. So this is a perfect time while I'm covering these resources to be typing in all of your questions. We have specific landing pages on our website for installers and business owners. That gives you a ton of different information depending on who you are. We have case studies on a bunch of different cool commercial projects we've installed. There's online tools that I talked about, the system builder, the module compatibility calculator. On our website, you'll also find all the documentation, data sheets, installation guides for both of those microinverters. We have the training on Enphase University that I mentioned. We also have YouTube videos. We have a dedicated commercial YouTube channel. So if you might have seen our residential channel that we have, and it's a great channel. There's lots of helpful stuff on there, but we didn't want to muddy any water and have anybody thinking, am I listening to commercial video? What am I watching? So we created our dedicated commercial YouTube playlist videos. So that way, if you're on that site, you're only going to see videos that pertain to commercial projects.
Chad, I do have a question from the audience here, like zooming out a little bit and more like the eco-family kind of products. This question is particularly about the battery integration with the gateway. Can you please elaborate a little bit on that?
Yeah. So right now, Enphase does not have a commercial battery solution. Coming soon. We are actively working on that. And hopefully this time next year, we'll be having another one of these introduction calls, or maybe earlier, but that will be coming. Now, that does not mean you can't have an AC coupled battery on your commercial site. So a lot of other companies that are installing our commercial products are using several different AC coupled battery solutions with our commercial product.
Wonderful. Thank you. Any other questions for Chad? You can type those in. I just wanted to really extend my gratitude to you for being here today. And I know you were not feeling 100%, and the more we appreciate you. So what stands out to me is really the cost-effective solution and the ease of installation. That's rather exciting. And along the way, that support and the resources that you offer through the different channels. So I hope everyone attending this webinar has taken note. You will be getting a copy of that presentation so you can look it up. And of course, your BayWa account manager is absolutely available to support you, and our commercial help desk, of course, as well. Yeah, any more questions from the audience? All right, it looks like all questions have been answered. Thank you so very much. It was a very clear presentation, so I'm not surprised there were not many questions here. Thanks again for being here. Thank you for your partnership and for your support. Thank you, Chad.
Yeah, thank you. I really appreciate the opportunity for you guys to kind of host us today and allowing us to talk to some of your customers about the Enphase commercial solution.
Yes. And thank you, exactly, dear attendees. Keep your eyes open for the presentation. Thank you for showing up today as well. We know that you are very busy right now, so thanks very much, everybody, for coming here today.